we're so excited to have you. I was like dying all day. I was like, oh my God.
But this is like, honestly, I have to say that this is therapeutic for me because I had a pretty public relationship and it just ended abruptly. And I just kept life moving. I didn't explain anything. So I still have some people till this day who knew that I was like married that keep asking me like, are you still married? And I'm like, if you put two and two together, you can figure it out. But I never had a chance to really talk about it publicly. So I'm like, this is like an on the record account of.
This is the Oprah style interview that you're gonna get for your breakup.
Yeah, for real. So I was like, oh, you said bad breakups? Great. Let me talk about it.
You are so welcome, all of Tyomi's amazing followers. Like, this is the exclusive. All you were waiting for.
Exactly.
Well, I'm so excited because honestly, I'm not really familiar like with your very public breakup or relationship. So like, let's just get right into it. You are?
I'm always following. I knew something was going on because of all of your amazing like adventures. And I was like, ooh, nothing says I just got out of a relationship like a gorgeous woman out on her own and embracing the world.
Because Gigi and I follow each other on Twitter. And so she was seeing it all. I was just moving through life, you know? I'm excited to talk about it.
Okay, amazing.
Well,
so let's do it. Let's get into it.
Tell us, first of all, I guess just fill us in, like, give us a little bit of backstory about the relationship. Where did you meet the person? How long were you all together? That sort of stuff.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let me see. Where do I begin? Well, I was on a journey of celibacy in 2016, and then I extended it into 2017. And I was in New York because I bought tickets to the Big Sean show. He was at Radio City Music Hall for the first time. And I was like, let me go out here and like support this man. And I was staying with a lover at the time who I was like on and off with for at least like 7 or 8 years. And it had got to a point where I was just like, fuck this. Because it wasn't moving anywhere. This person wasn't like evolving. And I just felt so frustrated because I too was like in a place, kind of like a transitional phase in my life. And I was like, I don't need to try to like make something happen with this person. And so I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm cleaning my slate. I'm clearing out my little black book. I'm getting rid of everybody. And so I remember leaving his house. I read him for filth apparently. And we've since like reconciled things, me and that lover. I'm poly, so I have to preface with that. I am poly.
Okay.
And I've been solo poly for most of my adult life. And so leaving that lover's house in Brooklyn, I was like, I'm never going back there. And I got on my flight. It was a Spirit Airlines flight.
Oh no.
Don't
Your first mistake. Your first mistake.
Spirit Airlines.
The energy is already so bad.
And so that's the thing, right? It's like I was on that flight looking forlorn. I was heading back to Chicago and I had like this big meeting with Planned Parenthood because I was doing some work with them. But I was just so sad. And I was like, I don't have any prospects. I don't have any options. I was like, I feel like I'm not doing something right with love. I just need like help with this. I was like, God, send me something. I need help. And so there's this guy. I was like sitting a few rows in front of me and he's like turned around just like staring at me because I was like staring out the window. I just felt a gaze like burning the side of my face.
Oh my God. I thought you meant you were on the plane going, God, give me a sign. I was like,
yeah, I was on the plane. I did. I was on the plane. I was like, God, I just need a sign of like, I just need help with love, right? But we were grounded. Like we were on the ground, not even like pushed back yet. And I'm looking out the window at the people like loading the bags in. This guy like burning stare inside of my face. So I turn around and I'm like, oh, this guy's like actually attractive. And so he's like, oh, I like your hair. I'm like, oh, thanks. And they just turned around and sat down. And then when we deplaned, once we got to Chicago, just so happened that we were going to be riding the same train into the city. And so we rode together. And then he's like, so I wrote this book and it's called Love Is Not a Game. And I was like, what the fuck?
You were like, God, did you do this stuff?
You're quick.
I asked for a sign, but this is a big one, man.
And I was like, oh, for real? I need this book. And so he's like, well, I always like offer this book for free to people. And I always offer to read it with people. I was like, what? People reading these days? This is great. I was like 2 for 2. And so he didn't even ask for my phone number. He asked for my email. So I gave him my email, and then my stop came. And then I was like, well, if it's meant to be, I'll hear from this guy. And then poof, he sends an email. So he sent the email. We connected through email, and he sent me a copy of his book. And then eventually we just exchanged phone numbers. And so I found myself every time like I was going to New York, I would visit him. Like I went to New York for a podcast, and then I was like, hey, I'm going to be in Harlem, because he lived in Harlem. I was like, I'm going to be in Harlem for this podcast. We should hang out. And we ended up hanging out, and we ended up hanging out a few more times. And I remember, I think the deciding point for both of us was the first time we ever like took a nap together. We were up for like most of the day. And then I had an early morning flight. So he arranged for a place for us to stay. And we took a nap together, and that 3-hour nap felt like 3 days. And we were like, wow, there's something here. And so we just eventually started spending more time together. I ended up just moving some stuff slowly but surely to Harlem. And then so within a matter of months, we had, he like supported me in driving me down to Philly to an event, which was like a sex X event that I was speaking at. And
I spoke at that too.
Yep, Shout out. Yep. I was there.
Was that the same one? Oh, that was the same one. Wow.
It was the same. It was the same.
Forgive me.
One.
I swear to God, the pandemic made my brain like
just crazy, right?
Yes.
So he drove me down there. That was an experience. And then we took a trip to DC where I was hosting an event, and he just helped me out with some troubleshooting there. And so early on, he was very supportive and really like engaged in just helping me with my work. And then I remember him coming to Chicago to surprise me, and also helping me with getting my stuff together for Exotica's show in Chicago. And so eventually, I'll never forget this. It was like one day I had a photo shoot in Brooklyn. We were downtown, and after the shoot, I thought he was joking, but he like proposed to me with a chicken wing. And because chicken wing is like my favorite thing to eat. And so
he wasn't joking. But he wasn't joking.
He wasn't joking. And so I was like, wait, are you serious?
The Spirit Airlines of engagement rings.
Exactly. The Spirit Airlines of engagement rings is chicken wings.
Yes.
You know, they don't give you your wings. They give you chicken wings, and then you can use it as a ring in marriage. So
thank you, God. Your signs are abundant.
I was like, this is so amazing. And so it was like literally only 6 months we had been together, and he proposed. And the thing about it was that like during this entire time we're reading his book. And then I learned that his book was like a condensed version of A Course in Miracles, which for me, when I found this book, it's very, very, very thick. And so it's like basically mixtapes of Jesus beyond the grave. That's what A Course in Miracles is. It's the mixtapes of Yeshua ben Joseph from the grave. Well, he has risen, so I should say from the beyond. And when I found this text, I was like, ooh, I've been looking for this, because I was also like in this spiritual journey at the same time, just looking for something else. I just felt like there was something more I was missing. And so when I found the course, we were not only reading his book, but also studying A Course in Miracles. It's very important to note, because there's a whole thing around this. So I felt like I was in spiritual boot camp with this person. Like he was helping me transform my mind around like ego and love, and like what it means to actually be a spiritual being having a human experience. And it was a mind fuck. I'm not going to lie. It felt like pieces of myself were dissolving. And so we ended up getting married, and I let him like lead in this relationship. So let me back up a little bit. This was my first committed romantic partnership that was ethically non-monogamous.
I was about to ask, were you ethically non-monogamous during this time?
Yes, we were ethically non-monogamous. So when I met him, he already had some partners. And I remember feeling so scared to even tell him that I was, because I was like, I really like this person and I would like to be with him, but I don't want my lifestyle to be a hindrance. But I was like, fuck it, I have to be open and honest. And so when he was like, oh, me too, I was like, and so we both
check. checking every box.
Checking every box. But also, I have to say, like, at this time, I was like, let me try something different and let this person lead and just see what it's like if I just lean in and just say yes. Right.
Huh. Okay.
And so I was like, let me just play this role. Because, like, in BDSM, I'm a switch. So I'm like dominant and submissive. Right. But in my romantic partnerships, I really do enjoy like taking the more submissive role. So I let him lead even with like, okay, the form of polyamory we're going to exercise, and like when it came to our marriage, what the union looked like, and you know, because he was just like, I don't want you to have to worry about any of this stuff. I mean, this man did like research around marriage and like the institution of it and what marriage looks like in different countries and cultures and all of this. And so we ended up doing a declaration of marriage because he was like, well, if ever we wanted to separate, I don't want it to be like this hard legal thing. And that should have been a flag.
What is a declaration of marriage? Is that just where you declare you are married?
So apparently, African slaves in America, when they were enslaved, because they were not able to be legally married, what they would do is have a declaration of marriage, which they would have somebody sign off on. And like we went in, we got this notarized and everything. So in doing his research, he's like, well, we could still make a declaration and we can declare and put it on notice that we're married and still have the same like benefits of being married as far as like power of attorney and this and that by just filling out paperwork, but without having to have the legal marriage license, right? So I was like, okay, I'm letting you lead, whatever. But that should have been a flag to me that this was kind of like a trapdoor for him to escape if ever he wanted to. Right?
It does. Like, it does smell of trapdoor escapism,
right? But I was
literally like you're like studying this man's work, so like I feel like you were just fully trusting him at the time.
Exactly, right? Studying his.
I'm not gonna lie, it's giving cult leader.
I was gonna say, like, you're getting married to a man who you're like, okay, now let's sit down and read your book.
I'm not gonna get something.
It's giving slightly cult leader.
So, all right, here we go. Met this beautiful woman from Nigeria through a friend of his. It was like his sister, and she made me some gifts for my birthday, and she made me this beautiful dress. I was like, where am I going in this dress? I was like, oh wait, I'm getting married. So I ended up like wearing like a Nigerian dress, like it made in Nigeria for my wedding. And then she made him like a jacket that like matched and everything. And his family owns like this brownstone in Harlem. So they cleared out the parlor floor and we got married in this beautiful historic brownstone in Harlem. It was like true, like Black Renaissance, just this whole beautiful thing. An inspiring love story for all of my followers. A chef who followed me came and like cooked for us. Like we did this all very inexpensively. I bought decorations from Amazon to decorate. He also was a pianist. So like he played a piece for me, like my favorite piece, which is Canon in D. And his brother is a violinist, so he like accompanied him, and his friend was a DJ, so his friend DJ'd, and we invited like select family and friends. I mean, it was a whole thing. Like we really did it up. And then after the wedding, of course, I mean, we did like a pre-honeymoon thing. We like went on a cruise to the Bahamas, which was really nice. But then after that, it was like things started to shift a bit, and I started to shift because I started studying authentic tantra, which he did support me on this journey, but things started to shift. And then I
quickly for people who don't know what authentic tantra is, could you just give us a little quick
just a little summary. So authentic tantra is a modality that was created by Debbie Ward Erickson, who has been studying Tibetan tantra for over 20 years. So it's a mixture of Tibetan Buddhist tantric practices with somatic healing and some neo-tantra mixed in, and it's such an amazing form of tantra to practice. It's literally transformed my life. And tantra's weaving light and sound with form. So light being visualization, sound being mantras, and form being your body. So just teaching us how to be our own healers with our sexual energy and how to be more connected to life and sensuality. So I was always searching for this. And when I approached the work in 2018, it literally like transformed my mind. I went through a lot of purification. And then I just started noticing things like him and I, like, we ended up getting a joint account, and then we ended up starting a church together, an online church. And it was rooted in A Course in Miracles, which for me was very transformative. But it got to a point where I started noticing, like, why are you always in charge? Like, this is our church. I really want to, like, you know, lead in this. But whenever I would try to, like, step into a leadership role, it was like an issue with him. And then also, I didn't like, so yes, we're poly, but we didn't talk about any, like, boundaries and around, like, who to interact with. Like, I felt very uncomfortable with him interacting with people who were my followers or fans. I felt very
that feels like a fair boundary.
I felt very, very, very uncomfortable with that, but we never discussed that. And also for him, he wanted, like, don't ask, don't tell, and I didn't want that. But because he's the leader in this relationship, I just conceded and was like, you know, whatever. So when I started to feel uncomfortable around a particular relationship with one of my followers, it, like, we just butted heads. And from that moment, things started to just kind of dismantle slowly but surely.
Was this just a follower off your Instagram page, or is this a follower who, like, really follows your work, has maybe gone to your events, or, like, how did he kind of get involved with this follower?
She had never, I don't think she had ever come to any of my events, but she was definitely a follower. And I think also just kind of like somebody who was a low key, kind of like a leech, who, like, saw what I had and wanted to be a part of that, and just kind of started to, like, you know,
watch out for those.
Exactly. It was a whole thing. Like, I also felt like there was some, like, bewitching going on. It was just a lot. It was a lot going on. And so we had a few blow ups around this person. And I'm like, why is this even happening? So then stuff just started to get kind of weird, and communication and stuff started to kind of break down. Ironically, as he's writing a book on communication, like a thick ass manual. And I'm like, but you can't.
I was not shocked by that at all.
I was like, but you can't talk to me though, like, because you're saying that, oh, I don't want to be in my ego when I'm talking to you about anything and how I'm toxic. Well, so look, I didn't know I was being spiritually gaslit.
All the way.
I didn't know. I didn't know until 2019 when my friend, my tantra mentor, brought it up to me.
Wait, so that's a year into the relationship now, or how long have you been dating him and, like, married to him?
So we dated for like April, May, June, July. So we dated for like 6 months before the engagement, and then we got married in January 2018.
Okay.
And then we started kind of like butting heads in I would say like April, May 2018. And then
just a few months into the marriage, shit started going south. Yeah.
Because for me,
it sounds like things went real quick.
They did. They went really quick. And because, I mean, it was kind of like a whirlwind romance in a way. But also, like, in my mind, I was like, maybe I should just have him as like a spiritual teacher versus like trying to be in a romantic partnership with this person, right? But anyway,
then you really would have been part of his spiritual cult. And you just would have been one of the followers.
Oh God! So like, I remember towards the tail end of our relationship, him saying like, "I'm not training bitches no more," and I'm like, "Training? What are you talking about?" Right? And so that put it in my mind that, so this book that you have, even though it has a lot of like great stuff in it, you were using this book and reading this book with people, specifically women, to try to get them onto your doctrine and like philosophy so that they would be tailored to what you wanted them to be.
Holy moly.
There were things that started to happen like towards the tail end of 2018 where I was catching him up in like some untruths, and I was like, but if I call you a liar, now all of a sudden I'm not being open in my feminine.
Oh and no, using the language against you.
Gaslighting the fuck out of you.
Yes, and still to this day, like I'm still working through stuff because we went through like extensive study, right? So it was like he literally had my mind. And it's funny because after I broke up with him, I didn't break up with him. I'll tell you how we broke up. All of my friends and family and even colleagues were like, we didn't like that guy. And I was like, damn, none of you?
No, they told you?
Nobody.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck me.
Why? Why didn't they tell you, like, this
you know
is
what it
giving cult
is?
leader vibes?
I'll tell you what it is. It's because
like, we think Tyomi's in a cult, but like, let's not tell her.
the kind of person that I am, it's like no one can tell me anything, especially when I made my mind up and I'm convinced. So they're just like, we love you. We'll be on the sideline supporting you. And when you're ready, then we'll tell you the truth that we see. And like, I met some wonderful people through relationship with him. Please don't get me wrong. But, and this is why it's such a mind fuck, because it's like, you loved me. You supported me. You helped me get through times for school. He helped me with so many things, like my relationship with money. He helped me with social anxiety. He helped me develop emotional intelligence. But at the same time, I was being spiritually gaslit and manipulated with the spiritual doctrine that I had come to love and that really did help my life. But I was being gaslit. So fast forward, it is April 2019. I leave New York to go to work for Exotica Chicago. He's supposed to be meeting me there. His car breaks down, this whole thing, and he can't make it. I'm like, it's fine. Then 5 days later, while I'm in Chicago, staying with a client and just like accepting her generosity, he calls me and he says, so we don't live in this house anymore. I'm going to pack up all your stuff and put it in storage. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of all of it, but we don't live here anymore. And I'll fill you in on more details later. Click.
What the fuck? So your husband says that you are no longer living at your home. The two of you are just out? You're gone? Like what? So you don't have a home to return to.
Why didn't I pour a glass of wine before we started recording this?
Yeah, I should have put something stronger in his cup besides coffee.
What the fuck? I'm so confused.
I was too. So imagine me, right?
You're like,
and what's interesting is like he was always like kind of cryptic, you know. It was like I was on tour, so I was on my cocktails and condoms tour. It was going pretty well. And in March, I had returned from Texas, our Texas run. And he was just like, when he picked me up from the airport, like, oh, things are going to shift soon. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, don't worry about it. You'll just know when it happens. And I'm like, the fuck? Okay. And again, he's the supreme leader in this relationship. So I just have to go along with it. And being in my divine feminine energy, I just have to be submissive and just go along with this, right?
Oh my God.
I hate this for you.
And then he does that. He drops that on me. Right? And even in telling the story, right? For him, he's like, well, you know, stories don't matter. It's the intention. And it's like, you know, his intention was to support me in moving out on my own and having my own, since I had never lived with anyone else. But I was like, no, you didn't want to live with me anymore. You didn't feel comfortable with having the responsibilities of having a wife. He would always say, I don't know how to be a husband, but I know how to be your husband. But I was just like, you don't. And then he also like stopped calling really and texting. And when I would want to talk to him and ask questions, he was not available or would say, this is not the right time. I'll let you know when it's time. And then
Did he try to ghost on his own marriage?
It was like soft launching more, I feel like.
It was
like,
a soft, he was breadcrumbing the breakup.
Oh, breadcrumbing.
He was breadcrumbing me. So then here comes the summer. So what also pissed me off was the fact that like I had an opportunity to be in the New York Times, you know, talking about poly, which that article is still out. It's there. It exists.
It's amazing. Everybody read it.
It is really amazing. And he knew that he was actively breaking up with me, but still committed to doing that article. And I was like,
oh, fuck him.
You wanted that shine. You wanted that shine.
Ew. So he
literally
used you for clout.
Using your fame to
That's disgusting.
And if he tells it, he would say that that's not what he was doing, that he was just still showing up for me in support of this, but I still could have done the thing without him. Like, I'm still poly solo.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, this man, is this man just like absolutely incapable of taking responsibility for his actions? Just can't do it?
Look, I have assessed that this is somebody who is extremely avoidant and uses like his like these spiritual principles to just prop it up, you know? Because like whenever he would go away for days and I wouldn't know where he was at, it's like, oh, details don't matter about where I'm at. What matters is the fact that I love you and that love isn't going to change just because you know details about where my body is. And I'm like,
Until you call me and say that I don't have a home. Like, the fuck? What's so insane about this is like, it sounds like he kind of got off on like training women and teaching girls or women how to like fall under his leadership. But he got married to you. Like, he got all the way married to you. So like, I don't understand how those two things can exist.
his thing too was like, oh, we can play with marriage. You know, it's like, we can get married and then like divorce and break up and then come back and get married again. And because this is what we get to do. And I was just like, I hear
What?
you. I hear you. And like, no, it's not, that's like, that wasn't okay for me. But again, I was just like, yeah, sure, whatever, you know?
Right.
I hear where you want to go on this journey. I myself will not be coming on it.
I was like, yeah, but no. So, but you know, just went along. Just went along, you know? So, so, okay, I'm displaced now, right? So for a whole summer, I literally was just traveling to and fro, trying to figure it out. And then he drops these letters on me while I'm in New York, just like the final bomb, which is like, I don't want to live with you. I can't say that, you know, we would live together in the future. I want you to have your own. I want to have my own. And I would love for you to invite me to your space and blah, blah. And I was just like distraught. And me being distraught was like a bother to him because he's like, you act like I poured gasoline on you and set you on fire. And I'm like, bitch, you did. You set my whole life on fire. I thought that I was settled and was going to be in this relationship with you for as long as, you know, for a long time. And I literally moved and uprooted my life to come to New York. And you just moved me out without my consent. And you're upset that I'm upset that you didn't get my consent or consult me about it because you're like, well, you put me in charge of this relationship. So why are you questioning my leadership?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
Wow. That's so bad. I'm so sorry you went through that. Shit.
That is...
So I eventually found my own place in Chicago. And then he meets me at Exotica, Jersey in 2018. And he has this RV. And I'm like,
an RV?
You have an RV?
Oh, is it because he's starting a cult? Is the cult coming for real?
It's because he wanted to just live his life on the road and have a place that was his own, you know, and I was just like, oh, okay. I didn't know that you were doing that. Okay. And so he packed up the stuff that he had in storage, which it was only a portion of my things. I don't know where the other things went. Portion of my things, which I guess he deemed as the most important things, and drove them to Chicago to help me move into my place. And then left all of these little love notes around my house. Like, remember, we're on the same team. I love you. Save this for when I return. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, God.
What?
2020 hits. Now, I think the last time I saw him was I went to New York to go get a visa to go to Nigeria. And he made it very clear that he was only helping me with this whole visa process, not because he was my husband, but because he wanted to do it. That was
feel like those things should go hand in hand, but sure, man.
That was a big, 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 big flag for me. I was like, what the fuck is happening? Didn't hear from him while I was in Nigeria for real. And then January comes and there is really no communication. And then I finally get in contact with him and I'm thinking the smart thing to do in any relationship that feels like it's just almost done is therapy. So I suggested, I said, so can we go to therapy? You know, can we like find a therapist to talk about like what's going on between us and blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'm only open to it if this therapist understands my philosophies and doctrine.
No.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
If the therapist is one of my cult followers.
Right. Let's hit up our church and see which of our followers will, mediate some sessions for us. Like
that way we can both gaslight you, Tyomi, and then you can feel even crazier. Sound good?
Right. Yeah. And that did not sound good to me. So I was like, you know what? I said, you know what? Just forget it. It's okay. And I just shut down. And then he proceeded to get off the phone with me. And then he blocked my number. And then proceeded to write a 42-page letter.
42 pages?
Like front and back, long pieces of paper, no lines, just white plain paper.
Handwritten?
Yes.
I gotta say, I would be like, I ain't reading all that.
My dad and my sister told me not to read shit, but I was like, nah. I'm old.
Of course you read it. Of course
I was like, I'm owed this because I've been asking you for a damn near a full year to talk to me, and you have been avoidant as fuck. And I had talked to him right before that about some things that were like some grievances that he had. It was like, I landed in Salt Lake City, Utah for Sundance. And we basically were like in a little tiff about some things. And then like right after that, I didn't hear from him. And then I get home to a letter in the mail and my number was blocked. And then that letter, he just laid out all of these things that I did wrong. I was the reason why the relationship broke apart. I had swayed from our original agreement for what our relationship was for. I had changed. He had not. He was on the same principles, the same, he was like, I hadn't changed, you've changed. And then ran down all these things that I did wrong. Also accused me of stealing from him. And
what?
And then he's like, I'm not your husband. I'm not your daddy. I'm not your partner. I'm nothing. I'm this person. And this is who I am. And it was almost like he was just like making this grand declaration about like his individuality, as if like being with me had somehow shifted that. But the thing is, it's like people were recognizing him because they were seeing him with me online. And some women who he would try to talk to would always be like, well, I got to get Tyomi's permission first. And he's like, I don't have to get her permission for anything.
This is so fucked.
Oh my God. And again, 42 pages is a lot of pages to say I'm a piece of shit.
It was a lot. And so, literally at the end of that, he's like, just remember one thing, I always love you. No, in the first page, he said, just remember you asked for this, right? That's what he said at the beginning, opening statement of this letter. Just remember, you asked for this, and I want you to read this when you're alone, not around anyone else. And I was like, you're trying to isolate me through a letter? You can't do that. You don't have that much mind control over me for me to go say, oh, guys, I have to go read this letter by myself. I can't read it with anybody in the room. You abandoned me. You breadcrumbed the breakup and expect me to still listen? Like, very... That's
bad.
So fucking
red flags abound. Right.
And I read
That's crazy.
I read it out loud. I read it while my sister was there, and she was just like, fuck all of that. And then and this was at the top of 2020. This was in January. And so it like sent me into a tailspin, and then he ghosted me. Like he blocked my numbers and everything. And so I had to end up processing all of this by myself. And then all these things started to come out because I was close with like his brothers and stuff. And like, this one brother that I was the closest to would say, like, he would say things like, oh, don't tell Tyomi we're doing this or that. And I'm like, there was a point where I literally said to him, I feel like you're living a double life. And he would say, no, I'm not living a double life. But then I found out he had all of these partners that were like, you couldn't even count them, down in Pennsylvania. And I'm like, okay, I want to be in polyamorous dynamic where we're talking about who we're interacting with for a very specific reason. Well, few. One, my health. Two, I'm a public figure.
Right.
You're attached to me.
He can't be fucking your fans. That doesn't like that. Just can't be happening. That can't be
Like,
fucking
come
happening.
on.
And I
It's
tried
just
to
so
go
disrespectful.
I tried to go along with it with this one partner, tried to like, be down. And I really was very, very, very much so uncomfortable with it. And so I found out with that one particular person, he was like basically playing daddy, like staying at her house, interacting with her kids, taking her to and fro from like hospital appointments. He was her power of attorney.
Oh my goodness.
What?
Wait. Was he fake married to her too?
I don't know.
Oh my god.
I have to assume there were other wives. Like,
could have very well been, because he also was like, he grew up practicing Islam. So he was like a Muslim, but he wasn't an active Muslim when I was with him. And so, I mean, we did talk about that, like, oh, there could potentially be other wives in the future. You could have other husbands, blah, 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 whatever. But my thing is, it's like something that would impact our family. I would need to know about that. But he's like, you make our relationship
Seriously.
about everybody else. So in his mind, he's like telling me, well, you're focusing on this person and that person and not us. And I'm like, but those people also impact you and it impacts me. So again, just like being gaslit around.
Just gaslit the fuck out of this.
I
The
was
guy
on
who
fire.
literally burning to an ash.
Yes.
He wrote a fucking manuscript on communication and he won't tell his wife that he's the power of attorney over someone else. Like,
Nope. And the crazy
What?
thing about it is that he wrote this book and he gave everybody else a copy but me.
oh my god. He was literally isolating you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fucked.
So him dropping and really the passive aggressiveness in like dropping a letter in the mail to break up with me, I assessed that it was out of fear of being harmed. It was the same thing with like him moving me out without my consent. It was the fear of being harmed. I don't know what happened in his previous relationships or I think he had been attacked before. I don't know. But I was just like, you know me well enough to know that I'm not that kind of person. And also, like, I would have had friends in Jersey and New York help me move my stuff if that was the case. But you didn't want to talk to me about it. You just made a decision for me about my life. So 2020 was a hard ass year, of course, the pandemic.
yeah, damn.
Right? And it was just so much stuff happening. And I was afraid for a while to even talk about it because of how, like, in our relationship, it was like, keep our business between us, kind of a vibe. And like, I would just have moments when I was like training my clients where I would just break down and cry. And honestly, the cowgirl workout saved me because being active and putting and pouring into other people and serving other people, especially during the pandemic where everyone needed to be held, it literally saved me. If I didn't have that, I don't know where I would have been. And I will say though, like, leaving the relationship was better for me. I mean, I guess in his mind, he knew that it would be better for us to be separate. So I'm happy that he did make that decision because I just would have been holding on, trying to make it work for the sake of like, I'm married, I gotta make this work, and also not wanting to feel like a failure again in another relationship. And so I'm grateful that he did break it off because it made me stronger as a person. I definitely developed a lot of emotional intelligence and just like healthy things in that relationship, but that relationship was definitely character development. To say the least. And
big time.
And then leaving that relationship, it was like he didn't tell his family or friends or anyone that I had met while I was with him that he left. He just kept living his life.
Wow.
Okay, then. That's lovely. Thank you very much.
It's fucking insane.
Yep. That's
insane.
That's what I was going through. And it was like, I just felt very scared to even talk about it because I was feeling crazy in my mind because I had been gaslit and I was experiencing cognitive dissonance. And I was just like, I don't know what to do with this. So I'm just going to live my life and pour into myself and go to therapy.
Yes, snaps for therapy. We love therapy.
Therapy
Yes.
can really, change and save your world.
It started out as this thing that I was like, ooh, I found this text that I needed, because I still study A Course in Miracles and like associated texts with it, because it's so good for dismantling like human ego. But it was being manipulated to manipulate the minds of people, not just women, people.
For real. There's so much of that spiritual sexuality that's like
Ugh.
it takes really good some really solid ideas and it twists it into being this whole like heteronormative purity culture bullshit. And like that sounds like he knew exactly how to twist those ideas to create a lovely little brainwashing I'm the leader in this relationship dynamic.
He did twist it. And I mean, a lot of the things that we would practice, like having a purpose for our relationship and like connecting and stuff like that, was really great. We used to keep a journal where we would like share appreciations and just like talk to each other in this journal. But when I started talking about things that were uncomfortable, that we weren't talking about out loud, he no longer wanted to journal and keep a journal, because I had soiled this sacred space. And it's like, but you don't talk to me about any of this other stuff. Like,
so it was like he was happy to talk as long as it stayed within like, you're amazing,
loving,
you're fantastic,
right.
Yes.
everything is wonderful.
Everything
You are
is
the leader.
Yes, if it's loving,
You are
right? You
supreme
are my
leader.
supreme leader. Yeah, no, it really was like that. I was like, you are my supreme leader, right? And so, you know, but also I will say too, like I was wearing a mask, the mask of let me just try and see what this is like to allow someone else to lead, and just being a total yes, because that was his thing. He was like, you're a total yes to me, and this is why I'm like, I love you and I'm with you, and so, but I wasn't always a yes. I was just playing the role of yes. So I can understand him saying like, it felt like you changed. Well, yeah, I did, because I no longer was wearing this mask of yes. And it is okay to say no. It's okay to negotiate, especially when you're in an ethically non-monogamous partnership. You're going to be negotiating all the time. And things are going to shift.
Even if you are taking the sort of more submissive role in the relationship, it's still okay to not say yes to everything.
It's totally okay.
Yeah.
But it never felt like it was. It never felt like it was in certain respects. Like, of course, certain things, like if he wanted to do something and I didn't want to do it, it's okay not to do it, or, you know, that kind of thing. But like the meat and potatoes, or like the foundational stuff that like was grounding our relationship, it did not feel like it was okay to say no to those things, because now I'm being painted as this person who's not in her divine feminine openness and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And that's why it was easy for him to just deflect it all on me and say like, it's all on me. And so I got to the point where in my processing, I realized that there wasn't anything that he did to me that was intentionally malicious. Like he wasn't trying to ruin my life. In his mind, all this stuff was done out of love. And so he kept kind of like circling around my mom, which was very weird. You blocked my number, but you're calling my mom, wishing her like happy Mother's Day and checking in on her on holidays and checking in on her during COVID, but not me. And I was like, this is so fucking avoidant. You really want to talk to me, but you're scared. So I had to play the game with him to even just like talk to him, just to like get, you know? And we eventually saw each other last year. And I had to have this meetup happen because I was like, I just want to remind myself this person is not a big bad wolf, that this person is literally just a small human being, and that he doesn't have that kind of power over my life anymore. And to remember what it was when we first started, which was, it was rooted in love, but at some point it got mixed up. It really got mixed up. And so after seeing him, I realized that there's still a lot of love for me coming from his way. And I was just like, well, I can say that I appreciate you for ending things, because if you hadn't ended them, I wouldn't be in the space that I'm in now, because I'm so much stronger and I literally landed on my feet. And the principles that I learned in that relationship definitely helped me to like break codependency and all of this. So like I did a lot of processing of like, what did I ask God for in the beginning? And then did I receive that in the relationship underneath all the stories and all the shit that happened on top of that? I'm like, yeah, actually I did. And so I met with him to just show him appreciation for that. And also remembering that this is the same person that was avoidant and I don't feel safe with you. I can't trust you to hold me in a particular way. How I emote bothers you. So we could never be in a romantic partnership ever again. And honestly, I can't say that I could be in a friendship, considering when I asked you to show up, you were avoidant and dismissive to protect yourself. And I'm not knocking him for wanting to protect himself. But when someone else is involved and you know their temperament and you know how they are, showing up for them and being being supportive of them matters, not just in the way that you think is supportive. Like, it's not supportive for you to just pick up my shit while I'm gone and say you don't live here anymore.
Right.
For real.
What? So that's the story.
That's a good one.
That is the story. And it was a mind fuck and a roller coaster. And there was a lot of tears and just a lot of confusion. And I mean, I'm happy that I'm in this space of like, remembering who I am and remembering that I always have love around me. Like my community, my tribe, my family, friends, and my lovers surrounded me with so much love, and they just like carried me and just brought me back to myself. And I'm literally still getting the residual, like, I didn't like that guy. Like, damn.
Seriously, no one fucking liked him but me?
I mean, I feel like that's such a good place to end this. So I'm like, wow, what an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Can you tell our breakers where they can find you, and definitely go and take the cowgirl workout?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So you can find me at thecowgirlworkout.com. If you are a female embodied person and you want to learn how to ride dick, but also improve intimate movement in general and just deepen your mind to body connection, please come and join the tribe. $24.99 gets you into our quickies program, which is like 20-minute workouts for you to do to just jumpstart your transformative process with me. And then you can find me on Instagram at Real Glamazon Tyomi, on Twitter at Glamazon Tyomi, and also my blog site, glamorerotica101.com. And I just want to encourage anyone listening to this podcast now and in the future, like, breakups happen, and just remembering who you are and remembering why you're here and like remembering your purpose can help you move through so much of the shit that comes along with just the ending of a relationship. And I want to say, you know, I'm single and looking for primary.
Slide into those DMs, my homies. Love it.
Solo poly looking for primary.
Yes. Oh, my breakers. Slide into the inbox. We know we love the followers here. Okay. So thank you so much, Tyomi. It's been an absolute delight. You guys remember, rate and review this podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Love ya.